friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and today we are doing day 4 of our Mini Quilt Advent. So excited to share this one with you. If you haven't opened up your envelope yet, put me on pause. I'll wait while you get that opened up because I don't want to spoil anything for you. Okay, now you hopefully have opened up your envelope and we are using this shape. Now this shape is super fun, and it's super fun for a couple reasons. When we design these templates, I had a specific idea in mind for this, which is obviously the flying geese block, which is what we are making today. But also I wanted you to be able to use this for future projects as well. Now all of these templates you can use for future projects, but this one is really neat because you can use it. I cut these sides blunt, which is a little different than you'd normally see in a flying geese block template. But the reason I cut them blunt like this is because that way you can use them for half square triangles. You put 2 of these together and you get a half square triangle that is a little bit bigger than 2 inches finished. So what that means is that when you sew these 2 together, you still have a little space to square them up to 2.5 inches to make 2-inch finished half square triangles. So this is a great scrappy companion if you want to make leader ender blocks, or if you just want to make a really fun scrappy quilt. Cut your scraps with this. You can sew them together, square them up to 2.5 inches, and then you'll have the perfect 2-inch finished blocks for a really fun scrappy quilt. So I hope that made sense, but that's why this one is designed the way it is. And today's block is also fun because it's the first time that we are using a previous template. So this was our day 2 template along with today's template to make our shape, which is our flying geese block. So you ready? Let's get started. So here are our templates. We have our large and our small. We can go ahead and add our adhesive dots to our large. Gonna go ahead and put this over that hole. I'm gonna do the same thing, small one here. And then poke out a small one to use over there as well. Put those ones back to use later. There we go. This is also the first time that I can't just cut out of both layers when I'm cutting my 2 fabric option. But I am again cutting 2 for my triangle. Now when you cut a flying geese block, you can kind of decide where you want your bias to be. I went ahead and lined my grain line this way, so these 2 sides are going to be on the bias, but my grain line is going to be right here. Now for our light fabric, we need 4 pieces, and we're cutting these with our day 2 template, which are smaller 1.5 inch half square triangle. And I can do the same thing, just fold 4 layers. I'm going to have my grain this way. My bias is going to be on the same side as that triangle there. See, did I get through all my layers? Not quite over here. There we go. So now I have my 4 pieces for basically the background of my flying geese. Now, if you're doing the fussy cut, it's go ahead and pick out some fabrics for fussy cutting. All right, we haven't used our gorgeous floral yet, and I really want to use that. So I'm going to do the floral. Ooh, we haven't used this plaid yet either. That's going to look really fun. So we're going to use the floral and the plaid for our fussy cutting. Now, this could go either way. I could use this plaid on my large triangles and get this like interest of the plaid stripes, or I could use the plaid on my florals, which is what I originally thought. So I'm torn. I could just make it twice, right? Well, I have some of this really gorgeous holly, and I want to include a holly. So now I'm not worried about my bias on this one at all. I'm really just worried about fussy cutting, and there's going to be bias all over the place, which just happens. And bias is when you don't cut with the grain of the fabric, you cut kind of across the grains instead of with the way the threads go. You're cutting across all the threads instead of parallel with at least one set of threads, and it means you get more stretch in your fabric, but that's okay. Sometimes the fussy cutting is worth it. Get it all? Yep. Okay, so there's one. And then like this smaller floral here. I think I can get most of it in my shape. There we go. So I have a holly and a floral, and that's done with our larger triangle, our flying geese triangle, and then with our small 1.5 inch half square triangle, I get to decide how I want to cut these. And I actually want to cut them this way because with the way the flying geese are going to go, the lines will be this way, and I think that's going to look really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up my seam allowance line just below. There we go. That blue line. And that's going to add some really fun interest. Again, you can use a Sharpie marker, a fine point marker, to line everything up, or to draw your lines so that you have reference lines when you go to line up a second time. None of these are really meeting up in that way, so I'm not worried about it being perfect. If these lines were coming together, and I'll show you what that means. So if these were coming together like this, I would want to have lines that I cross-reference to make sure that everything lined up just right to make that shape. But they're not. They're going on either side here, and then this is going on top. So you won't even know. So let me go ahead and do the second set up here. And I'm just going to chain piece these, one large triangle to one small triangle, then I can press. Normally we press towards the dark, but in this case we're pressing out towards our light triangle, and then I'm going to do the same thing, chain piece the other side on. I can again press towards the outside, and then put the two sets of triangles together, and that's going to be our block. So let's go ahead and get sewing. Now when lining these up, as I mentioned before, this large triangle was made so that it could be multifunctional. So you will have some little ears here and here. What you're worried about is lining up this edge and lining up this edge. So that's what we're lining up. So we're pressing out. There we go. And now we're just going to stitch the other side on the same way. We want to make sure that this line and this line line up. Again, we're just going to press. In this case, it is towards the light, but it's just pressing out. And when you're pressing a bunch at a time, you can go ahead and stack press like this. Doesn't hurt anything to just press a bunch at once. There we go. Now I have one more decision to make. This one's easy, just on top of each other. But with this one, do I want my holly on the bottom or my holly on the top? I think I like it on the bottom better, but I could see it going either way. Holly on the bottom, holly on the top. Let me know in the comments what you think. So now we just line these up and stitch. Now what I didn't do on this one that I am going to do on this one is when I stitch, I'm going to have the point of this one up, and that way I can see that I'm catching that point and keeping that point. I'm not going to cut it off with my stitches. Let me look on the back. Oh, I did a good job on the other one. It'll be fine. Okay, so now these can get pressed. I'm going to press them up in the direction that they're going, and that reduces the bulk of this whole point that comes up. Oh, this is so fun. Now, if you're looking for a fun project to do this weekend, you can actually grab these and make a bunch of little triangles like this and make a tall Christmas tree. So green and a background color, or I mean, your Christmas trees don't have to be green, whatever flocked color trees, pink trees, they're all fun. But you can make long, like door knocker, door hanger, long trees like this. By just making a bunch of these flying geese shape and then sewing them all together. And then you can just add an easy little border around it, and you've got a long, fun tree shape. So there we go. That is our day 4 block for the Mini Quilt Advent all done.